Hello and welcome to Justified Jewel Podcast. My name is Joanne Cox, and I'm so excited to be here today because we have a special guest. But before I tell you about our special guest, I want you to know a little bit more about Justified Jewel com. That's right. That's my website. And I have this wonderful website that I'd love for you to visit. I'd like for you to stay tuned to my blogs and my podcasts and all the different places that you can find me. But right now, I'm hosting Justified Jewel Podcast. And as I said before, this is a podcast about getting better and knowing more information in the spiritual world, physical world, health, and all of the things above that we can always encourage each other and be uplifting. And that is what Justified Jewel Podcast is all about. Social awareness. We can get into that. There's always something we can do to make ourselves better and to give to our neighbor and fellow mankind. With that information in mind, this young lady I have known for quite some time, and I like to bring people on not just by picking a name or getting referrals. I like selecting someone that I feel really close to, true at heart, and I believe to be very authentic. And when I feel that way, I believe that that comes across on the screen right here to you. So right now, this is going to be Phyllis Williams. Phyllis, tell them something about you.
Well, I am from a small town in Mississippi. I like to say I'm a small town girl with a big heart and big dreams. And I'm glad you mentioned social awareness because I'm really big into serving others by being a better you.
Okay, that's a lot said in a few amount of words. But what Phyllis is going to bring to us today, because she is a teacher, the new phase of teaching in the classroom. That's right, the new phase of classroom teaching. So my first question to Phyllis is, let us find out about what the classroom teaching looked like before the pandemic. Just give us an overall view.
Well, Joanne, like you said, you've known me for a while and we are germ busters. So, so I was a germ buster before the pandemic. And if I was a silver level germ buster then, now I am a platinum level germ buster. Classrooms are still looking fun. We still have things on the wall. We still show work. Prior to the pandemic, I had instructions about the importance of washing your hands properly, staying away from people when they're sick. I had masks in my classroom before the pandemic because sometimes the younger kids, when they sneeze, it's like this, achoo. Oh, sweetie, you sneeze, then you covered your mouth. So I would give them the option of wearing a mask if they were sick. So as a teacher, I had a roommate that was a veterinarian. She would say, Phyllis, you're sick again? Oh man, teachers are sick all the time because of what we do.
The kids.
So, the kids.
Yeah.
So one thing I do notice that before the pandemic, prior to, we didn't have as much technology. So I was a lot more paper printing, a lot more tablets, a lot paper tablets and things of that nature. And as a teacher, we're going to be creative. So I may buy a book this year, but I want to use that book for 5 more years. So I buy a plastic pocket so I can put it aside. So I can put it aside the workbook.
How creative.
Yes, because I have to make this workbook last some years because the coins are spent a lot before the pandemic.
Yes. So Phyllis has given you an overview of what it was like with her before the pandemic. I want to back up a little bit because she was talking about this platinum thing. And Phyllis, our viewers have no idea where you're coming from with this, but what she has sort of suggested to you guys, that she included me into this germaphobe thing, Well, you know what? Before the pandemic, that's my buddy. We were neck and neck. I don't know what level I was on, but before the pandemic, when I went to a restaurant, I made sure I cleaned the table. I cleaned the salt and pepper shakers. Okay. And I'm looking at everything around me and I'm checking it out. I'm very observant and I have a history of past background as an event planner. So I do have the eagle eye, but I don't know where Phyllis got onto all of this. But because of the pandemic, we have upped our game. And now, but what I want to say about the classroom, and I'm over the age of 60. You don't need to know 60 plus what. But you remember when we would tell the kids to what the teachers would tell us what to bring to school. We had to bring some kind of sanitizers. We had to bring Kleenex. And what she alluded to is that kids are sick all the time. They are always passing germs, and they'll do one of these numbers in a heartbeat. And they have nothing to wipe their nose on. So the teachers would make sure that we had hand soap to give and that we had some type of washing area or whatever, because we wanted to be as clean as possible. We wanted to protect the teachers as well as the fellow students. So with that being said, Phyllis, what is it looking like now in your classroom?
Okay, so I still have the Germ Busters poster up.
Mm-hmm.
When the students walk in my room, I recently bought a sanitation dispenser. So they put their hands underneath there
Mm-hmm.
and it gives them a drop of sanitation and they clean their hands. Before the pandemic, I had this, but I had their pencils and the toothbrush holders. So that way I don't want everybody using everybody's pencils. I don't want those to get mixed up. Now I have a timer near the sink, so they can understand even more so what it means to wash your hand for 20 seconds. So they swipe their hand over this little clock that I have and it'll start counting down the 20 seconds.
How creative.
Every student, because I work in a federal setting and this doesn't apply across the nation, all teachers and all students have to wear a mask. So that's something that's just done.
Okay. And what I want to bring up for the viewers, the great part about the pandemic is that we are virtual in so many areas. And this is a good thing because we get to talk to our neighbors that's in California, New York, Florida, all over. So to the viewers, I want people to know that we are in North Carolina. And with that being said, I know that there has been some controversial issues that we won't get deep into, but I do want to bring up that we don't all think alike. We don't all believe in the same things. And even though Phyllis and I are germaphobes, we do believe in the mask, whether an institution, the school or a store or a church is saying we don't need a mask. We would definitely wear a mask. My question to you, Phyllis, are you having any situations, and this is local, so we don't have to get too deep into it for the people that know you, but are you having any situations where there's some kind of controversial issue with parents not wanting their kids to wear masks?
Well, again, I'm very grateful that I work for the federal government. It was period, point blank, you will wear a mask. And they even emphasize, even if a child is severely disabled, they are still expected to wear a mask. One parent said, well, and not at my particular school, just with my department, parents were saying well, my child has a health issues, and they were like, in mask. So it was a period, point blank thing. And I'm grateful for that, but there's still controversy because, well, we wear them in the building. Well, we're outside the building. Why do we still have to wear them? There's some people that's unhappy about that because the rule is, the technicalities. Technically, I'm not in the building, I'm outside the building. So there's some technicalities like that. There's some parents who will not wear a mask when they come to pick up their children.
Mm.
And we've been informed to basically mind our own business and just don't say anything to them. And some of them can be aggressive. Some of them can say, and I'm not wearing a mask. You won't
Yes.
never see me with one on. So, because somebody said something to them, so that's why they say it. Teachers don't say anything to parents.
Yeah, and that's a trigger point for some people. And I can understand that this can be very stressful to you as a teacher, having to have to hold your tongue, and you're probably feeling all these things to crop up inside. On a personal level, how do you stay calm? And what are some things you do to stay positive and calm?
Okay. I close my eyes and I picture my paycheck. Oh, there it is. I need to see it. I need to see it every 2 weeks.
That is so funny.
So that keeps me calm. And another thing is, on a serious note, is I've done a lot of inner work. And one of my things actually was control.
Yes.
So what can I control? I cannot control this person wearing a mask, but you're going to stay 6 feet away from me.
Exactly. Yes. And I truly believe that we live in a very selfish world. And whether we're talking about to mask or not to mask, the average person is simply thinking about themselves. When I put my mask on, I am wanting to protect myself as well as you. And people are talking about, oh, I've been immunized. So, I've had the vaccine, so I'm good. You don't realize that the vaccine does not stop you from getting it. It is to slow down the hospitalization of what could happen if you did get it. There are people getting COVID for the second time. So this show is not about just COVID. It's also about the classroom respecting each other, parents respecting another individual. And, what can we do as people? This is Phyllis. What can we do as people to get people to get more respectful of each other? Because I think the world is being pushed toward the wall of saying we need to respect each other. What can we do?
I do think information is powerful. I was in a group chat or something, and I told people, my mask protects you a lot and me a little. So what you were saying is, I'm not just wearing my mask because of my selfish reasons. I could be I'm around maybe 50, 75 kids a day, if you count all the duties I do and all this stuff. I could be asymptomatic and not know it. And,
exactly.
And just the thought of me getting somebody else sick, and that person has a grandparent or a toddler at home, I don't want to do it. So sadly, I once thought that everybody was self-reflective, but they're not. And sometimes you have to put things on, personalize it.
Yes. If
you have a grandmother, would you want us to protect her? If you have a child that's under 2, because I forgot what disease it is. I think it's called RSV. It has been increasing too. Don't you want it? Don't you want us to reduce stuff like that? And aside of COVID, there's still all the other illnesses. There's still pneumonia. There's still flu. There's still people with autoimmune diseases. And that is my responsibility, I feel, to do my part. Do your part, not just for you, but for the people that are vulnerable.
Yes. And again, just thinking about your students, because you have a certain amount of people in that classroom. Do you remember back in the day when HIV was so prominent and everybody was talking about, the one person that sleeps with this person sleeps with a number of other people? Well, that is how I see COVID, because we don't know enough about it yet. And what I'm thinking is for everyone that I'm surrounded by, and with you being a teacher, all of those people, which you've just stated earlier, that all of those people are going home to someone else. And all of the things that we have touched. And for all of the people that don't believe in hand sanitizer, knowledge is definitely power. And so when we keep this in the forefront of our minds, I think we can do better. I think that there will be no such thing as going back to the norm. I think we can just drop that word back to the norm, that statement. We can just drop that into the trash basket because we now have to be cleaner all the time. And my next question to you, Phyllis, is as a teacher, I find you to be so creative. There's a thing that says you need to always be with people that are smarter than you. I take that literally seriously. I'm not going to be around you. If you're around me, it means you're smarter than I am. So I just want to tap into that. She is so sharp and she is such a smart person. I am just loving her. But my question to you is, we're talking about being creative. Can you give us some ideas past the classroom as to what can parents do to encourage their children and other people around them to sanitize more?
So before I go on, I want to say iron sharpens iron. You have helped me so much over the years that I know I'm more vocal and I'm more confident because you've poured into me. So thank you for saying that. But you're smart, we're smart, and we're iron sharpening iron. I would say one thing that makes me smart is I know I don't know everything. So sometimes I'm in another teacher's class and I'm like, oh, I never thought about teaching it that way. Or I'll go on YouTube or I'll go to a Facebook group and say, hey, you guys, I have this kid. I haven't done this, but here's an example. I have this kid, his mask is always under his nose. What are some things you guys use in the classroom? So the same thing, parents can do the same thing. They can reach out to other communities. They can reach out to other parents and see what's working for them. And as far as sanitation, here's one specific. Well, no, I'm gonna give you two.
Okay.
Two things that you could do. One is put blue paint or any color type of paint, washable paint on a kid's hands. And just have them wash their hands how they normally. I would say first let them wash their hands how they normally would wash it.
Okay.
Then the second time have them put some paint on their hands, get it all on there, then tell them wash it. And ask them, which way do you think you wash your hands better? What did you do differently? And I got that because I saw it from another teacher on social media.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my goodness, yes, because even as a germaphobe, I was like, am I getting my thumb as good as I thought I was getting it? So the visual aspect of it. And then also following research-based resources. The CDC, what does the CDC say about?
Yes.
You taught me this one. People say, oh, I use hand sanitizer. They wash their hands, then they do this. Bite their nails 2 seconds after the hand sanitizer. Well, what does the package say? You told me it says 15 seconds. So it goes back to knowledge, but not knowledge from Jaquan or Billy Bob on YouTube, from reliable sources. So check packages and check the CDC. So what do they say about how long can different viruses last on surfaces? Yes.
And that's something that we should already know. And intellectually, we know these things, but we don't put them into action. And my favorite quote, knowledge is what you know. Wisdom is what you do with what you know. And Phyllis is very creative. She understands about getting resources from other places, but she put them into action. And so I want you guys to remember that you wash your hands first, and then you put something on them so that now you're paying attention as to, did I get that off? Did I get that off? And we all do it if we were painting or cooking. We want to know, did we get the flour or the oil base off of our hands? So can you imagine doing this as an everyday practice? I know that I've experienced people in public bathrooms that you go in and they rinse their hands off. I'm thinking, what's the point? Now you wet the bacteria and now you have made it get worse. So why are you not following the rules? And I know that as a teacher, my next question to Phyllis is, teachers instruct. When they instruct, they are expecting you to follow the directions. What can you tell us about how you instruct your students? Because for what you're doing, I already know that we need to do it as adults. How do you give directions or your instructions, and what do you expect from the children as into how to follow your instructions?
I'm glad you asked that. I don't think I mentioned this, but I'm a special education teacher. So some of my students have, excuse me, my medical teacher. Some of my students have focus issues. Some of them have comprehension issue, processing issues, just different things that may make it more difficult to follow directions. So I often have to repeat directions. I have to check for understanding. I have to have them say the directions back to me. But most importantly, out of all that, I think with most tasks, the person has to buy in. So if I'm I did instruct them about washing their hands. And I told them about and I sat when we first started school, and I watched everybody wash their hands. And I was like, you grab the napkin and you turn off the sink. You turn the knob using the napkin now.
Okay.
Because, so gave them those instructions. So, but check for understanding. Have them say the directions back to you and repeat the directions. But I think with every task, everybody has to have a buy-in. So the buy-in, it could be kind of like, now, if your parents aren't washing their hands right, you can tell them. Parents, children. I think even if you're 50 years old,
and
when you can tell your mama something or your daddy something, you're like, mama, you touched the knob, or so that's one example as it relates to COVID. But as it relates to factors and addition and subtraction, I try to make it as fun as possible. I try to show them how it relates to real life.
Yes.
And I also praise them. I think a lot of people like praise. You're doing a good job. Show them how they're growing. Last week you had trouble with this, and now you are excelling at it. So those are some ways I get my students to follow directions.
And I'm glad that I asked that question, because I said it intentionally, knowing that you're talking about students. But I think in today's world, we all need to be taught that same way as to how to hear those directions and how to follow through on those. And I truly believe that all adults like praise in some form or the other. So this is one of the ways we can get the entire world to buy in to what we're wanting them to do, and we can have a better world. Because when we realize that the waitress did not clean the table properly, she needs to weigh in on that paycheck that you jokingly about earlier in the podcast. But if she had something to back her as to why this table need to be cleaned, if she was praised and said, you're doing such a fantastic job here at such and such restaurant, we need to buy into that. We need to do this with sisters and husbands and wives and teachers and church members, that I am saying this because of social awareness, and that I am wanting us to step up. We need to step it up. We need to bring on our A game because we need to be better individuals. Why wouldn't we want to be better individuals? Why do we need to be praised? It doesn't matter. My point is, it doesn't matter. We need to get from point A to point C at this particular time. And you said it so elegantly when you talked about the different steps. And I want to bring this up because I'm a person that Phyllis has come to me and said, Joanne, I know you didn't say that. Joanne, I know you didn't say it like that. And so I thought it was as a teacher, she had special skills. But now I realize I know a lot of teachers and they don't know how to address or say things. So this question to you is, what gift is it and how can we get this by just knowing how to say things softly, because we're wanting someone to get it, but we don't want to be too rough around the edges and make them literally turn off.
Mhm. I think I'm going to say a few things, but at this point in my life, I realize we are the sum of our experiences. So that way I don't take things personal and I don't try to force anything on anybody, but I just give them the information and they can do what they will with it. I haven't always been this way,
Okay.
because one way I've learned this is sadly through saying, oh, I said that out loud, and knowing that I could have said it better.
Mm-hmm.
So one, learn from your mistakes and do some self-reflection. I know everyone doesn't subscribe to Christianity or any form of spirituality, but for me, I say often, God, let my words, thoughts, and actions align with you. And if they don't align with you, please correct me. And sometimes it's like 8:05 in the morning. I'm like, oh, already? I've already messed up. So I think a lot of self-reflection can help. You don't have to do it for religious reasons, but just knowing that other people are human beings. And if you can't, there's some quote that says, if you can't help anybody, at least don't harm them.
Yes.
So just being sensitive towards that and self-reflective helps. And learning through your experiences. What are some things that you said sometimes that maybe had somebody have a bad day, and do you want that to be your reputation?
And what I'd like to bring up is, it's okay to let others see what you see in them. And what I'm meaning by that is that a person like me might not be able to self-reflect because I had no idea I said anything harsh, because it was just me. And it was just like, that was my thought. And I can receive it, meaning I have a tough skin, that I didn't even know I did anything wrong. So when others can softly say to you what you've said and how they received it and recognized it, that is so important, because sometimes we will walk away and not acknowledge what we've heard from that person. But now, because I talk to a lot more people per day, every day, that people are getting back with me and going, woman, did you say that? And I was going, yes. But now I have this internal dialogue going on and I still do it. But something clicks and it says, oh, that didn't go over well. And it's okay for me to immediately apologize and correct. And sometimes I'm not able to do that at that time, but now it's a learning experience. And I've got to give you this one example. When people ask me the same question twice, my immediate response should be to simply answer them. But what I would normally say would, but thanks to this young lady right here, she helped me out. I would say, didn't I already say that? I already said that. And so what I'm implying is, apparently you weren't listening. And that is horrible because no one is listening 100% of the time at every word that comes out of your mouth. Okay. And that can even be an ego thing that I even thought someone was listening to me that intently. So I want to get back to this teacher mode and get with my last question for Phyllis. As a teacher, would you advise anyone to come into the experience of being a teacher now that COVID is in?
Yes, and this is going to blow your socks off and people that know me socks off. One, I like technology. Like I've created some videos, I do some of our own graphics and things like that. I like technology. I'm not trained in it, but it's something that makes life easier. That's what technology is for. And I like being creative.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching online was so hard for me.
Mm.
And I work hard anyway, but it was doubled, it seemed, because of all the things you have to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if it was in other circumstances, like if I taught if I taught high school, it may have been different, but
Okay.
I was relieved to go back into the classroom. I was relieved because it was just too much for me to teach online. And I felt like I wasn't really helping my students. We went back to school because North Carolina didn't go back to school. But as I said earlier, I work for the federal government. We went back in February. And I would say by April, my students, it was clicking so much. They were learning so much. And even our not just academically, behavior wise too, because these kids had been out of school for a year. So they were doing stuff like, oh, I gotta use the bathroom, and just like walk out the door like, hey, you can't do that. So just getting into routine and stuff like that changed. Within, I would say 6 weeks, I could see a change in their academics and behaviors. And they just seem so happy for the human interaction.
Yes.
But for me, I'm very fortunate that our school is very serious about not spreading diseases. I've been doing this since 2007. I started off as a substitute teacher, then I became a teacher assistant. Now I'm a teacher. I got some degrees after that. And I would like to see so many more people who truly care about kids, can sympathize with parents, and who just want a better future for society, because that's what I'm doing now. I'm investing in society by being a teacher. It may not be something I do for 30, 40 years, but yes, even during this pandemic, we should still have more teachers. But I do believe it should be under the circumstances that the school system and the state is keeping them safe.
That was a lot, Phyllis. That was a lot. I appreciate you as being a teacher. I appreciate you as a friend. I hope you accept that term. And
Yes.
things are just going great for you. I would like to end this episode with, the things that are being taught in schools and out of schools. You've helped us tremendously. I'm going to put those things into practice. But what I want you to let the people know where they can find you, because teachers do things outside of teaching the classroom. Phyllis is an artist in so many different ways. Phyllis, tell us about where they can find you and some of your programs. Tell them about the coloring book, Phyllis. And that's another teaching, apparatus. So let us know about books that you're doing and websites that you have before we end.
Okay. Well, I have a website as myself, then I have a website with my business partner. I consider myself a transformation storyteller. What I want to do is tell stories in some format that change lives. it's always community-based. As a teacher, I'm in a community. And as the progress promoter, which is public speaking and workshops, I've written books. One was a bestseller, The Art of Me, 30 Strategies to Discovering Your Self-Worth. And then I followed up with a coloring book, 30 coloring pages to practice self-care, which came out this year. My other website, which is with my partner, is livingtheprinciples365.com. I know that's long. So what we do is we focus on the Kwanzaa principles throughout the year. We are coming out with a book. Yes, a children's book. So that's ironic. Like, I'm finally getting to the children's book. So
Yes.
we are coming out with a children's book to teach the Kwanzaa principles in practical ways through an adventure story. It's going to be heartwarming. It's going to be beautiful, and it's going to be a great story, not only for children, but also for adults to read to children. So follow us on Instagram and Facebook as Living the Principles. And I am Phyllis G. Williams, Progress Promoter on Facebook and Progress Promoter on Instagram.
Great job. That is some wonderful work that you're doing. And you talked about that long title. All they have to remember is it's 365 days in a year. Okay. And somehow or the other, that's going to pull together. And I want to end this episode by thanking you and hope that you'll come back and join us again. I am Joanne Cox, the host of Justified Jewel podcast. You can see me at justifieddjewel.com. I am a motivational speaker, and I am a certified coach, transitional coaching. You can find that on my website as well, and on any of the social media platforms. Again, thank you for being here, Phyllis. And I know you have enlightened so many people. So until next time, goodbye.